Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Freshly Pressed. In our ever expanding roster of guests, today we have Arthur and Eubin and Ben Green. Welcome to the show, guys. Appreciate you coming on.
Thanks for having
Thanks so
us.
much for having us. We're well coordinated. We're going to be talking over each other a lot.
I think the best way to do is you decide who's going to go first and then second, and then we'll just follow that order, and I think that kind of works. Or maybe I'll just tell you who goes first. I think that works.
That works, yeah.
Yeah. You can lead if we're not given any guidance. How about that?
Maybe. We could awkwardly pause for a long time.
Awesome. In your own words, tell us a bit about yourself and how you got into comics in the first place, and a bit about your comics origin story. And let's do it in the way of order of appearance on my screen. So Ben, you go first.
So my background is in film. I was a film executive for about a dozen years, running development for a producer, and that was my career. That was where I was. That was where I thought I was going to spend my entire professional life. And I am married to a fantastically talented illustrator who they were working as an animator and storyboard artist. And they had a brief break in their work schedule. And I had a sort of slow period at my job, and I had some free time. And that happened to coincide with me meeting two working comic book writers and also meeting Robert Kirkman's assistant through a film industry mixer thing. And those people sort of all collectively encouraged me and my partner to write a comic book together, right? Like, we had always thought of it as this impossibly difficult and challenging thing. And I don't want to minimize the work that goes into a comic book, but it turns out it is actually a thing which you can just do. Compared to, I worked in big budget blockbusters, and so I was used to, unless we can put $50 million together, then there's no way we can make this movie. And so the idea that my partner and I could just sit down in our evenings and say, what's the story that we want to tell? And then just tell that was this wildly foreign and incredibly seductive idea.
No red tape or gatekeepers?
Yeah. And so we put together a couple different ideas. We got some really great feedback from people. Your first idea is never going to be good. Your first attempt at something will always have, you'll make mistakes, and we did. But eventually we found something that that resonated with people and resonated with readers. And that was our first book, Cosmic Cadets, which we were very, very lucky to sell to Top Shelf. And so that's published through Top Shelf and IDW. And we have another one coming out in December. I know we're not at the plugging stuff sequence of the show yet, and I'm plugging something other than what I'm
Plug
here to
away.
promote, but we
Plug
have
away.
Cosmic Cadets Accused comes out in December from Top Shelf
Nice.
Productions. And so the first Cosmic Cadets came out in 2023, and my film industry job ended during the COVID lockdown. And so I had this book coming out, and my job ended. The whole film industry was shut down. I did not have the emotional fortitude to go out and start looking for a new job at that point. And so I said, I'm going to try and just work in comics and prose and be in publishing and see how that goes. And 2.5 years later, I am still making it work and just having a fantastic time.
Don't forget you have a prose book out too that I don't think you mentioned.
Yes, so in addition to comics, I also write prose.
That's
Um,
fantastic.
my debut novel also came out in 2023, and I am out to publishers with my next one. Fingers crossed, someone out there likes it.
Nice.
I love the first one. It's a real page turner for me. I'm not just saying that. Those short chapters really make me want to just keep going, on that book. So
Well, thank you.
yeah.
Please do link us to everything, and we'll put everything in the description of the video so people know where to find your books.
Cool.
Yeah, I will make sure you have all the links. Thank you.
Awesome. Arthur.
Yeah, I started my career similar to Andy in animation. I actually started as an animator on the first season of Futurama, and then seasons 11 through 13 on The Simpsons. And it burned me out from drawing, and that was kind of a heartbreaking moment for me. I've always wanted to be an animator my whole life. I'm doing it. I'm on the job. I'm doing it. And during one of the hiatuses, I just was like, this is too much, and it burned me out. And so I decided to go back to school and go learn, some pre-production and kind of writing and all the thinking behind stuff, because I was an animator, which is purely acting. And I wanted to think about kind of all the pre-production and thinking behind some of those scenes, and I studied advertising design and photography out in Boston, and came back to San Diego after living in LA for a few years. I'm originally from San Diego, moved back to San Diego, and have been back since. I was in advertising for about 16 years, worked my way up to be a creative director at an agency. And let's see, I ended up doing that for, I said 16 years. And then I got into film production. I'm sorry, commercial production, because that's the part of creative directing that I enjoyed, was being on set and doing commercials for clients, and broke off and did my own thing. I have my own small production company where I do a lot of commercials and talking heads for corporate companies. And in that time, to write a 30-second spot, for clients, every new client, you have to become an expert in their field or their product. So you'd spend months just researching and learning. And, you have all these ideas, and they all get boiled down from 50 ideas down to 30, down to 20, down to 10, down to 3 that you present to the client. Three completely different directions and stories and everything. And it goes down to one idea that gets picked. And then you get to blow that into a campaign. And, my buddy, Justin Giampaoli, he's our editor for my other comic called California Inc. He is a critic and a writer in his own right, and an editor for comics out. He's done stuff for Dark Horse and Image and his own books. He's worked with Brian Wood. He was a buddy. He's still a buddy. And, I told him, I was like, I wish I could take all this research and learn to write long form. I'd love to write a comic. And he's like, there's nothing stopping you. Go do it. So for the next couple of years, he and I would meet for lunch or dinner. And I pitched some idea one time, and he's like, hey, you should probably write that one out. And it was California Inc. And over a couple of years, just meeting up and him giving me free editorial on my scripts, it took me a couple of years to get 4 issues down, but I got 4 solid issues approved by the editor. That's Justin. Met Dave Law, who's the illustrator for my book, California Inc., in 2021. We got issue number 1 out in 2023. Just finished the final issue. The 4-issue miniseries is complete as of 4 months ago. and now we're working on a side story which is in systemic. So there's that's how it all
Ah,
connects. So wrote the side
nice.
story for it. We were surprised that we even have an audience, which is greatly humbling. And they're asking for more, and I happen to have a side story that I wrote, that I'm in the process of doing 3 parts of, and that's how Ben and I connected, to put systemic together.
That's fantastic. That's lovely. Did both of you read a lot of comics growing up though? Like, or did you like as a
Yeah.
reader?
Well,
How did it pique your interest?
Mine's quick. I grew up. My roommates back in college used to make fun of me, which were my best friend and one of my buddies from high school. I used to have so many comics and just boxes of them. I never read them. I only looked at them for the photo, for the art. There was the Jim Lees at the time. When Image first came out, Jim
Oh,
Lee, Todd McFarlane, Will Portasio, Mark Silvestri, all those guys were guys that I looked up to, and I just spent time just going through the pages and studying them, and never read them until I think when I got back from Boston, I started picking up stuff like, Planetary and all the older stuff, and just started reading. I got a nice long list from Justin, and I'm more of a reader now, but specifically more the creator-owned stuff that Image puts out,
mm,
or Dark Horse, or now Ignition Press and Mad Cave. So those kinds of things are really interesting to me, because they have a finite length. They know they're going to end in 6 issues, or 9 issues, or whatever, how many arcs. Unlike these ongoing, and nothing against Marvel and DC, because that's what made the
no,
industry the industry. So love me some Miles Morales. I'll tell you that for sure.
no, no. I think that's also a real problem for people who want to get into comics now. Like, I table at a lot of conventions, and every time when like a reader who's trying to jump from prose to comics comes and talks to us, they're always like, "Where do I start?" Like, I want to start. I'm like, that's a bit of a tough question. Like, I can
Anywhere.
name, yeah, yeah, exactly. But then that's the beauty of indie comics, right? Like, you can pretty much pick up, like, it's both good and bad. People don't know the characters, but I think that works in our favor, because then they can just pick it up and enjoy the comic as is, right? Like, they can enjoy the characters, the stories, and like, it's I personally feel like these stories are more personal, and the creators invest themselves a lot in the
Yeah.
story, and they also are very genre specific. So like, they come heavily into the genre. So that kind of takes you away from like your run of the mill superhero comics. It just makes it a very different thing
Yeah, it's less
altogether.
scary than saying, well, I have 40 years of lore you have to study before you read the recent issue that just came out. So,
Yep,
yeah.
yep.
Yeah,
And then people have like their favorite ends. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
I I was just
Yeah.
I came to comics later than probably most of
Mm.
the people you have on this show. I'm a 38-year-old white guy with a film degree, and assume what you want of me from that. It's probably true of who I was when I was 20. Um, I was very snobbish,
Hmm.
and did not really read a lot of comics as a kid. I read prose because prose is where real stories are told. And when I got to college, I someone made me read Watchmen,
Hmm.
and like Watchmen is great, but
Hmm.
Watchmen is also speaking to an incredibly specific time in history, and it exists
Mm.
within the context of so much comics history. And it's so often held up as a great way to get into comics. Like, look at all of this stuff that comics can do. And I read it and I was like, okay, I don't really understand what's going on here. And Marvel was going through the Civil War event at that time, and
Mm.
I decided, like, all right, I'm going to try comics. Here's this big thing which is going on. The whole comics media is losing their mind about it. So I read a bunch of Civil War comics, and again, if you don't know all of the history of all of these characters, I had no idea what was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
And so I kind of like set comics aside again because there was no good way to get in. And it wasn't until after college, really, um, I I was working in film, and someone handed me a copy of Greg Rucka's For Queen and Country,
Mm,
and like that is a self-contained story. Like I know spy thrillers, that's my genre. I could understand everything that was going on there. Like I got that. And then I read Strong Female Protagonist from Brennan Lee Mulligan, and
mm,
I don't know his new name. Because Ostertag just came out as trans, and I
mm.
don't know his name, and I should know that. Brennan Lee Mulligan and Ostertag, and reading those, it was just like, oh my god.
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
comics are not just movies where the
Mm-hmm.
things aren't moving. Like you can do
Mm.
things here that you can't do in any other medium. This is a valid and legitimate and real art form all its own.
Mm-hmm.
And I am deeply embarrassed now that it took me 20 something years to realize that. But I did eventually realize that. And yeah, my point is just we need a better onboarding point. It's really
That's true.
hard.
Yeah,
That's very true. I'm
it's funny
sorry.
that you bring that up, Ben, and you know this too. Rucka was kind of my re-entry point for comics. Specifically, Lazarus was the one that got me
Mm. Mm-hmm.
interested in not just reading more creator owned, but that's actually the one. That one, Matt Hawkins's Think Tank, and then some of Scott Snyder's like The Wake made me go, you know, this is cool. It doesn't have to be something that's existed before. You could write
Yeah.
something completely new. And again, Lazarus, when you said Greg Rucka, you see my face light up. You know, Greg, Ben knows how much I'm a fan of his as well. And I just recently finished Queen and Country as well. You're right. I mean, it doesn't,
Nice.
it's got some great storytelling in there. Rucka, anything he writes, I will pick up and read for sure.
I have to put it on my list. That's amazing. I think for me the re-entry point was Stray Bullets by David Lefem.
Hmm.
I don't know if you've
Mm.
read that or not, but it was so different to anything I had ever read before because it was it's so deeply steeped in in crime, like it's like a crime thriller with like high school kids, and it's just such a different setting that I had never expected a comics to be that, you know. So
Hmm.
it was just, yeah, and it hits you in the face with a lot of there's a lot of moments in the book that are very they just pop at you, you know, like, and you're like, ooh, I didn't expect this to happen at all. And then it just happens. And it's, yeah, you can't do that in a movie or in a TV show that easily that you can do it in comics. So, yeah. And you'll be surprised, Ben, by the number of people who got into comics late in life. Also, a lot of people from film and TV who get into comics, especially like in the last 10 years, I would say there's been a lot of people who have jumped mediums, or rather like explored comics as a medium, to tell their stories as opposed to film and TV, because like it's obviously very expensive to, you guys know it, you guys know all about it, how expensive it is to get a production off ground.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm
uh,
I'm not surprised to hear that. Like it is it tracks pretty closely with my experience. And yeah, just the people who I have worked with in the film industry over the last 17, 18 years, um, they are driven to tell stories. The ones who are interesting, the
hmm,
ones who are doing interesting work, they're driven to tell stories. And film is a wonderful medium. You can do incredible things with film, with the moving image, but it's not the medium that all stories are best suited to be told in.
Yeah.
And it is an expensive medium. It is a
Hmm.
very just physically difficult medium to work in. And I've talked to a lot of people out. I'm in Los Angeles still. I know a lot of people out here who have ideas for a story which they have been wanting to tell,
Hmm.
and they can't do it as a movie, and then they think, well, maybe that's because it's a comic. And
Mm.
for the stories which are actually comics, there's a lot of people who make a comic as a way of trying to backdoor their way into a film
Hmm.
career, and it's really obvious when you read those books that, like, oh, you're not actually trying to make a comic, you're trying to make a pitch deck for a movie. Okay,
Yes.
I got it. But
Yeah.
the ones who embrace the medium, the ones who really celebrate what makes comics special,
Mm.
you can see that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very true.
One of the people I hosted was he wrote a TV pilot and then he converted that into a comic. But then now his comic has taken the life of its own, and then he's evolved. Like he was very particular about like I have evolved my brain to work in a way that stops functioning like a TV pilot and starts functioning like a comic book. You know, they're two different things. So you realize that at some point that like the storytelling is significantly different between the two
Hmm.
things. So
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
amazing. Tell us a bit about the campaign, Systemic Volume One, a sci-fi anthology, and what's it about? Anything and everything. Oh, I see Richard Fairgrain there. I didn't see him earlier, so you were talking about him. Yeah, awesome.
Ben, you're pretty good on the
Arthur, you
pitch.
want to go?
Why don't you go ahead and do the pitch, Ben? You're pretty good at it.
Uh, all right, I'll do the pitch. Systemic is a science fiction anthology. We have 7 stories across 80 pages. Um, they are stories about people who exist at the locus where larger forces overlap. So, where governmental, technological, economic, social, these large tidal forces that control our lives. These are stories about people who are controlled by those forces, sort of struggling against that impossible force. And we have, I'm blown away by the work that our teams have given us. It's been such a extraordinary joy to see these come in, and I am also blown away by the wild variety that is in these pages. Everything from this one which is up right now. This is from Richard Fairgray. It is this dreamlike philosophical meditation on the nature of safety in a modern world and what
Wow.
it costs to be safe and whether those costs are worth it, and how much we're willing to sacrifice to be protected from the dangers around us. And he
Mm.
did this just stunning collage style art for it. It's really really fantastic. And then on the far other side of the spectrum, we have uh, Art's Piece, which is a political thriller about stolen land and family trauma, and we have a story about soldiers on the eve of battle trying to figure out what we fight for and why we fight and what how we justify the violence that we execute, and how we maintain hope in the face of insurmountable forces. And then we have like a body horror fever dream about the
Wow.
commodification of human labor. There's really there is something for everyone in this book, and you hear that a lot. But I really genuinely feel that it's true here. Our guiding principles were, we wanted to give people a space to tell the stories that fascinated them, and we wanted to build a book in the style of the classic science fiction magazines of the 50s through the 70s and 80s. These magazines like Weird Tales and like Analog, which these were the stories that I grew up reading,
Mm.
where they
Mm.
just found incredibly creative people and said, tell us a story, whatever it is which interests you, whatever fascinates you, whatever thread you want to pull on, let's pull
Mm.
on that. And then they just gave
Mm.
people space, and that's what we tried to do here.
Yeah, we were when Ben and I first got together about this anthology. We both had our stories finished and completed, and then forgetting how um, how fortunate we are with the friends we have in the comics industry. It's we weren't sure who we'd be able to get into this book,
Mm.
and the speed at which some of them replied, an emphatic yes, we'd like to be part of it, was humbling for us. It was very, very, very nice and kind of heartwarming that, I reached out to a couple people just kind of expecting a no, not right now, we're busy, this
Yeah.
isn't a fit for me. And, not only that, but, not only yes, but with Ben's, um, through line is, the theme of the anthology, how quickly they said yes, and also I have the perfect story for this, and it
Mm.
was just so kind of exciting how quickly it came together, and
Yeah.
without sacrificing, um, quality on top of it. Also, it's been really, really kind of invigorating, which is cool.
Absolutely. I really love how high quality the production is. Like you can just see from from the work that you've already put out as previews that it's such a high quality production. It looks absolutely stunning. The artwork's stunning. uh, I read the couple of stories yesterday. I read Provenance and Reclaim, and I really loved both of them. So great writing as
Thank you.
well. I really enjoyed them. Yeah. So definitely, I think this is something to be backed and brought to life. Really, and I personally I feel like the best stories are the ones that like I said before, people draw on from their like personal space, and they're I think like people relate to them so much more, right? And yeah, that's what makes science fiction such a genre that has remained fresh, even like if you think about it, like science fiction in the 50s and 60s was just completely aspirational, right? Like it was just
Hmm.
uh, pre-moon landing was like, what are we going to do in the next 20 years? Flying cars, floating cities, whatnot. And then there was like the post-World War era, and then post-moon landing, it changed into like the space age, and like the whole thing was about space for next 20 years or so. And in the whole and in the 90s and like 2000s, it was more about like the big brother watching us, and
Mm-hmm.
uh, uh, so like how does that genre evolve? Like how do we actually take some of, because a lot of those themes are still relevant, right? Like some of those themes are still relevant, how the society is right now in its current state.
I think, I mean,
So
isn't it? We tend to write about what's reflecting that, like you mentioned earlier, what's happening at this point, and like you see it with anime. The what happened out there, still affects them. It's still part of their history and part of their storytelling. And I think that's why we came up with systemic. It's we're all fighting some type of social construct and force, and we're all trying to make change in some way or form, and would like to see change. And what does that look like in a future setting? And how does a person that I can possibly relate to
yeah.
um, react to that, and or try to make change so that it does move towards something better? And so I think all of us feel some form of that in some way, either at your office or in your local politics. It's something that's top of mind at the moment. I'm sure that it's been there for at least the last 6-7 years. you know
Absolutely, absolutely. Awesome. Tell us a bit about the rewards and add-ons for the campaign. You know.
then you look, you're
All
taking a
right,
breath.
sure. I feel like I'm talking a lot. We wanted to keep things as simple and straightforward as possible. I know we have all seen those Kickstarters that have 3 dozen add-ons and 18 different versions of the book, and it's just too much. And we were thinking about us having to fulfill this, and I don't want to have to deal with who is getting which version of the cover and who's getting which add-ons and all of those things. So we kept things very simple. Um, we have a digital version and we have a physical version, and then each of those have a standard and a premium level. So the standard digital version gets you a PDF of the book with all 7 stories. And if you just want to read the stories, if you're international, we're based in the US, if you don't want to have to pay the $10,000 in shipping to get it sent to you, or you don't want to, is the US going to have a postal service in 3 months? Are we still going to be a part of the international shipping arrangements?
Oh
Who
no!
knows?
Oh no!
So if you don't want to deal with any of that, we have a PDF. You can get it. You can read the stories. And then we have, for a couple dollars more, a premium PDF that's going to have scripts of a couple of the stories. So if you're one of those process people who loves to see how something came together, then you can get the premium PDF and read some scripts and sort of trace a couple of the stories from their origin to where they wound up. Um, on the physical level, we have the book. You can get the book. We will ship it to you wherever you are. And then for a little bit more, Art and I will sign the book, and then we'll ship it to you wherever you are. We have a retailer tier. Local comic shops are the heart and soul and unsung heroes of this industry. I, about half the books on my shelf are there because the people at my local comic shop know me and know what I like, and they said, "Hey, you'll love this." And sometimes they're wrong, but usually they're spot on. And comic shops are fantastic, and Kickstarter can kind of hurt them because they rely on people coming in and buying books there. So we have a retailer tier where if you are a comic shop, you can back as low as 3 copies. If you want more, then great, but we're not asking you to buy 10 copies of an indie book that you're going to have to move. You can get 3. We'll give them to you at a great discount. We will sign those. And so we have a retailer tier. And then Art and I both have sort of a one-on-one session tier. So for a little bit more money, it's just a smidge more. Art has however many decades experience in
Visual
production and design and animation. So you can send him your portfolio and he will go through it and have a one-on-one call with you and do a portfolio review. Or I spent 12 years in the film industry. I worked on the Jack Ryan franchise. I worked on The Equalizer. I worked on Harry Bosch. I worked on a bunch of things which never got made because that's how the film industry works. I am also a published author. I have optioned work to HBO. And I do developmental editing. So you can get a developmental editing session with me at a huge discount off of my usual one-on-one rates. I'll read your TV script or your comic script or some of your book, and we'll have a call, and I'll help you shape it into the best version of the story that you're trying to tell.
That's fantastic. Those are lovely
And
rewards.
I think our only add-on is if you want digital copies of Art's California Inc. series, which is a really, really fantastic 4-issue comic series. Um, and he published it through his Studio 12/7 banner, which is also publishing Systemic. You can get PDFs. You're just doing PDFs, right? We're not doing
Yes,
physical copies. Okay.
yeah, just PDFs. I mean, you said it perfectly a while ago. I mean, we wanted to keep this one simple only because we already have 7 individual kind of stories that are it's kind of robust in itself. And so
Mm-hmm.
if we add too many things, it'll dilute from what the actual offering is. There's so much to ingest to begin with, and so we're offering just the book 4 different ways with the retailer option, and and then on top of that, the biggest thing for myself and Ben is, we wanted to make sure that this is focused on creator owned. In the end, every single one of these teams, we've created all these stories out of our own pockets, and the current goal only is to the goal is just for printing only, purely for
Mm-hmm.
printing. Not until after the printing do any of us make a dollar. So
Mm-hmm.
it's and it's everything is split evenly between everybody. So there's no we get more than them kind of thing, or somebody else gets more than the other because they have more clout. It's everybody
Right.
gets an even split down the seventh, not middle, but you know. So it's and with that we have a few, as you can see, there's stretch goals. We have that we as you unlock, we'll put more details to what those are, from a thank you to a freebie, all the way to a physical upgrade, so that when you get your book, it does have a nicer kind of feel to it of some kind. And where if we
Mm-hmm.
surpass any of those and all of them, we'll conjure up some other stretch goals as a way to keep it going, and as a way to say thank you for those who have supported all 7 teams.
Love it. That's amazing. I really like the amount of thought you both have put behind the campaign, especially like with the retailer bundles and keeping it all simple and let the stories shine, as opposed to distracting it with a lot of other stuff around it. And like having said that, there's nothing wrong in doing all of that.
Of
Like
course.
it's every campaign is different and everyone wants to approach it differently. I love how you have approached it though.
Yeah, I mean, my next
uh,
campaign has a bunch of add-ons, and different variants. That's It's a different campaign. You're right.
yeah,
It's not the same for every one of them.
exactly. I'm actually a big fan of California Inc. I've read the first 2 issues. I've read yeah, issues 1 and 2, and I really love them.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah. So yeah, awesome. Cool. Slight segue. So this is one of my favorite segments where I love to talk about your things that you love. Like the pop culture things you like. Let's get into that. I know you both have your lists,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
let's start with you, Art.
Okay. Sure. Sure. So top 5 things that I'm really into right now. Is that what it is? Yeah. I'll do that.
Yeah, we
So
can we can. It's such a broad question. I think like yeah, you can start. You can do it that way. I
yeah.
personally like to for myself. I think of it as something that I keep going back to.
Mhm.
From like all of the time I've existed, but that could be too broad at times.
Yeah, I mean, I
uh,
could talk about certain fandoms that I'm just really into at the moment that I would not mind singing the praises of. My number one as of the last maybe year and a half is maybe Reservation Dogs on FX. If
oh,
you
I love that show. It's
Isn't
so
it
good.
an
Yeah,
unsung, like, it needs way more flowers. It is
yeah.
so tight and so simple, but so much heart. I cannot sing enough praises about that show. I'm really disheartened by the the small amount of Emmys it was nominated for last year. There's so many great performances. and the ones that did get nominated, good for them, because they deserve it. But that show
Yes.
from top to bottom, it's no fat on there. It's trimmed clean.
Yeah.
And if you don't go through every single type of emotion um, in those 3 seasons, you didn't watch it. It
Yeah.
is, I cannot say any more good things about that show other than watch it. And if you don't have any feelings, you are a robot. I'm going to shame you now. If you don't like it, you're a robot. If you don't have one normal human reaction with it, even if it's disgust, you are a
Yeah.
robot. The other easy
Which
one,
I don't think anyone will have, because it's a very kind-hearted show. Like it's just
right?
too kind-hearted for anyone to not like it, really.
Yeah, it's a new take on coming of age. You don't realize you're learning and being exposed to indigenous culture without it being hitting you over the head with this is why we do what we do. It's just organically told as a human story, and at the same time you're learning about this beautiful culture that you probably don't know much about, and it gives you more understanding, and I've watched it probably 3 times in a row. It's so well done. So
So
that's
well
one
done.
of mine. I don't know if you want me to go through all 5 quickly, or do you want me to just
Let's do it.
okay?
Let's do it.
The next one is an easy one. Everybody, mostly everybody I know has watched Andor, and for good reason, especially just what we were talking about earlier, with topics of sci-fi and rebellion and fighting against forces that you might be against. That was just uh, minus the word Star Wars. It is such good TV. I can't say enough good things about it. And it's one of those, if you and you got to kind of watch it 3 episodes in a row, because um, I think that's why they released it in the second season 3 episodes at a time, because each episode is an arc. I'm sorry, is a act of 1, 2, 3, and so you put 3 episodes together, you kind of get a movie every time. And so
Ah,
if you've ever watched Rogue One, which is my favorite Star Wars movie, it gives the shot into the Death Star that much more gravity, right? One movie gives that one shot into the Death Star just that much more gravity. Well, in 2 seasons of Andor, that gives Rogue One that much more gravity. It just really it weighs on you at the end of like, then I gotta watch Rogue One. After Rogue One, I gotta watch, A New Hope. Even if you're not a Star Wars fan, it's something
yeah.
about that. Just fighting for what you believe is right, and then on top of it, it's not even kind. We learn from Rogue One that Andor is a murderer, and he
Hmm.
continues that throughout Andor. He's just killing, and he thinks it's all for the right reasons. So there's that. I got 3 more. I'll try to be a little quicker. One of my favorite comics is by Zoe Thorogood, The Impending Blindness of Billy Scott. Love that so much. Anybody who's some kind of artist struggling to find their identity or their purpose in art, something about that book just gets me. It's a book that I love to give as a gift to friends of mine in the comics industry who hasn't read it. It's one of my favorite like birthday gifts to give out. Something about it just Zoe Thorogood's very good about pulling at your heartstrings while also making you laugh. And then even the book design on it, her chapters are broken up by these kind of bios of people that she's met. It's beautifully done. Going on to the world of toys, I wish I had one here. If you're familiar with blockies, these little things that you put together, I'm a big Transformers G1 fan,
Ah,
and
okay.
you can see I love Transformers. I have plenty
Yeah,
on my
yeah,
desk
yeah.
in front of me here. You can't see, but I just recently bought a bunch of little blockies. They're called the Defender series, and that's whatever.
Nice.
I can't get enough Transformers Generation One specifically. Not Michael Bay. They should not be all GM cars. That's my biggest thing. And then
Hmm.
finally, I'm rewatching the original Voltron Defender of the
Ah,
Universe series. I'm,
yes.
I'm on still in season 1. Just watching them 1 or 2 episodes at a time, just enjoying the heck out of them. I have a couple ideas. I want to pull a Daniel Warren Johnson, and I wish I could find somebody who has a property license and let me write something. I won't draw it.
Ah,
I will not draw it, but I have a couple of ideas I'd love to explore with Voltron as a comic. It's just that's my original Voltron back there from when I was a kid, and that's
Wow.
not one of those. It's legit, like it's real. It's from
It's
Japan,
legit.
you know. It's
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
when I
yeah.
was a kid, so I love me some Voltron.
Have
Those
you
are my
watched the? Oh yeah, those are fantastic. Lovely.
the
Thank
the
you.
legendary defenders that they're on Netflix. I genuinely like that
Yeah,
one too. I know you're not supposed
it's
to,
so
but
good.
it was good. It
It
was
was
solid.
good.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
Was it
yeah.
the animated Voltron series from a couple years ago?
Yeah, that it looked very anime, but it
Yeah.
was
Were we not
solid.
supposed to like that?
I think some purists are just like, oh, it got woke or whatever that even means, right? It's like, no, it's exploring
No.
some other stuff, and you know what? It did it really well. It did
Yeah.
it really well. Maybe I'm just coming up with that. You're not supposed to like it. Kind of like the new Shira, which, by the way, have you ever watched that? The newest Shira?
Haven't watched it.
That's one
No.
of my favorite shows of
Isn't
all time.
Really.
Mermista is the best? Is she not?
Yes.
I have to
Disgusted
give it a
I
watch.
Mermista.
Nate Stevenson is one of those people who is genuinely upsettingly brilliant.
Mm.
I, Everything that he touches is just beautiful and perfect.
Mhm.
And he was in his 20s, like early 20s, when he was doing She-Ra.
Mhm, mhm.
And Nimona was a college project. It's
Oh, that's
just
right.
Wow.
Smart,
it's
smart
it's
person.
So good.
just it's just it makes you angry that there are people out there who are just that good.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
they're sharing their work with us to enjoy, which is amazing, and it's
Yes,
That
inspiring.
is true.
Let's
yes.
take it that way.
Yeah, I 100% agree. On your last two things, when you said Voltron and Transformers, my mind went to Gundam because I'm into Gunpla a lot. Like I
You
really
know
like.
what is?
Yeah.
Can you give me some advice? Is this too broad a question? Where do I start with that? You know, like I is it kind of like comics? Where do I start? It's too big. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. But I think like I think they all of them have and you're already into building stuff, so I think for you it will be easy. But they all have like levels wherever
Hmm.
you pick up anything. Just for me, the good starting point is always Mobile Suit Gundam. Like any in that
Yeah.
series
I
is
think I
always a
picked
good
up one of
starting
those
point.
super deformed ones with a big head and a small body. Man, that was
Ah,
fun.
yeah,
That was so
that was
fun.
fun. Yeah, yeah.
Those are so fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So maybe I did start already.
You did, yeah. Awesome, awesome. Ben, let's go through your list.
Okay. Well, Andor and She-Ra were like almost on the list, and then I cut them at the last second because I wanted to go for a little bit broader of a range. So I'm glad that both of them we got a chance to talk about how incredible both of them are.
Let's call them honorable
Um,
mentions.
yeah. um, so I'm going to start furthest from comics and then kind of work my way towards comics. So furthest from comics, um, board games and TTRPGs are my primary hobby. My partner and I, every night, as long as one of us isn't crazy busy, we try and play a game together every night. We have two weekly TTRPG groups that meet almost every week. Um, it's a huge part of my life, and so I wanted to get a board game in here, and so I've chosen Spirit Island, which is a cooperative board game where you and the people you're playing the game with are working together against the game, and you play the gods of an island that is being settled by European invaders. And you collectively have to drive off the European invaders before they get too much of a foothold, destroy the land, or kill all of the native people on the island who are your people. It's both an incredibly compelling game and just a really delightful message. The art is absolutely gorgeous. The production is gorgeous. They did this really clever thing where everything, about half the components are made of wood and cardboard, and about half the components are made of plastic. And the European invaders and their destruction is all represented by plastic, and your power and the natives are all represented by wood. So you like,
Wow.
even the game itself has this really lovely metaphor in it of this natural, sustainable world being overrun by waves of ugly plastic molds. Um, it's really great. Board games are great. If you've only ever played like Monopoly and Risk, then man, there are so many wonderful, wonderful games out there that do so many incredible things. But this is a comics show, so let's get into more narrative things.
Mm.
Um, the Monk and Robot books by Becky Chambers is two novellas. Um, the first one is A Psalm for the Wild Built. These are the most gentle and kind and lovely books I've read in a long time. It's they're set on a planet where a generation ago all of the machines simultaneously gained sentience. So like the
Mm.
factory machines gained sentience, stood up and said, "We don't want to be here anymore." And they left. And the planet is now divided between the human side and the robot side. And the
Wow.
humans have developed this it's a very low conflict book. The humans have developed this very egalitarian, nature focused world in the absence of all of their machines. And the robots have just kind of gone off to do whatever it is that the robots wanted to do, and there is no contact between the two of them. The book follows a monk who feels driven to go wandering off into the woods. They meet a robot, and then this monk and the robot walk through the woods together and have conversations about how you find meaning in life and how you choose what it is that you want to devote your time to.
Mm. Mm.
And yeah, I found these books at exactly the right moment for me. They just spoke to something. They said something that I needed to hear at that moment. But they are really just beautiful prose filled with empathy and kindness and a general message to just be gentle. The world is hard. Be gentle. And they're beautiful.
Mm.
Um, Speaking of the world being hard, Scavenger's Reign. I don't know, did either of you watch Scavenger's Reign?
So good. That is
Yes. Yeah.
some creepily beautiful stuff to watch. It's such a good slow burn. Oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I wish I would have
Yeah.
thought of that one. Dang it, that's such a good one. Oh,
It's also very imaginative. It's so beautifully animated. So imaginative. Yeah.
I loved that show. I was simultaneously sad and kind of okay when I heard they weren't getting a second season, because I genuinely hadn't realized that they were even considering a second season. Like the first season ends so
mm-hmm,
perfectly.
mm-hmm.
I don't know what they like. I'm sure whatever they had planned would have been incredible, but it's just a beautiful, perfect 12 episodes. It's relatively short.
Yeah, yeah.
It's just it was stunning.
Maybe you'll see it on
Um,
Kickstarter.
uh, See, that was three. Um, Four is the French cartoonist Guillaume. I am going to butcher his last name because I do not know how to pronounce French words. Guillaume Sangalin. Sangalin. I apologize, Guillaume, if you are listening to this. Your work is beautiful, and my pronunciation is not. Um, he's a cartoonist a cartoonist and comic book illustrator. Frontier was the first one of his that I read, which is it has this adorable big head chibi style art, and it is telling this very, very violent and difficult story of a corporate scientist in a future where humanity has colonized the solar system and built a pretty harsh world. And the book follows a corporate scientist as they realize that maybe they're not doing good, and go out and try to figure out what to do with their life. Really, really beautiful art, really beautiful story. Guillaume also did all of the character illustrations for Citizen Sleeper, which is a video game that's also incredible. Really, really great narrative video game. Um, Highly recommend people check it out. It's not that long. It's the work of one person who just had this story and needed to get it out. Um, Really great sci-fi narrative storytelling with incredible art. Uh, and then the last one, I have a representative book for it here, but it's not a single piece of media. It is, the pop culture thing, which I have been most obsessed with over the last 5 years, is whatever random story the person across the aisle from me at a comic convention just had to tell. It is one of my favorite things to go to a convention
Mm,
and go up to a table and just say, you know, what did you need to tell? What book here is the most important to you? And
mm,
then reading that.
Was
Or
that the same guy at Heroes Con who was singing and dancing?
uh, we will leave him unmentioned for now. I love going into comic shops and asking the person there, what's the book that you can never get someone to buy, that you desperately want someone to buy, and then
nice.
buying that. And I don't always like it. It's not always for me,
Yeah.
but it's always something that is fascinating and unique, and that only this person, only this team in this moment in time could have put together this story. And
Yeah.
so, my emblematic book for that is this. This is Settle by Jason Horn. I
Mm,
got this at Heroes Con this year. It's the story of a guy whose job is to go to planets and set up the colony there that later
mm,
other people will come and live in.
right.
And then when they show up, he leaves. And he is getting ready to retire, and the company sends his replacement, and he has to train his replacement. And the book is just the conversations between this guy who's been doing this for forever and his replacement, and one of the robots who he works with who has gained unlicensed sentience.
Mm,
And it's just a fascinating examination of um, how we build meaning. I keep coming back to this. All of my things are stories about how do we find meaning in our life. Uh, but it's an interesting question that we should spend more time pondering. And
mm,
Settle is a book that did it very well.
that's fantastic. That's a
Very
great
cool.
thought.
Nice.
Amazing. We're coming close to time, but before we go, I would love to give you guys the stage and give an elevator pitch, like a quick 1 minute spiel of the book, and why should people back it? Stage is yours.
You want me to take this one, Ben? Since
I've been
you
talking a lot.
now you did that longer pitch earlier, so I really appreciate that. You've just been really good about talking about it lately. I mean, you got 7 stories of from personal level, um, you, against some against some systemic forces. So that's one, but also just the amount of talent that we were able to gather is one thing, and then we're all doing this as creatives in the world of comics because we just got to get that story out. And as I mentioned before, we're just trying to share stories that we wanted to get out, and it'd be nice to get paid. I know it shouldn't be about the money, but it kind of is in the end. No, no, I'm teasing. We are just trying to get this printed. That's amazing, and we've got some uh, fun, not fun, interesting and thought provoking storylines. As I mentioned, that if you look at what's currently happening in our world, how much these actually reflect a lot of that, and then you have a combination of some stories like mine, which will go over a few volumes, and you've got some nice self-contained stories here as well that you'll get a nice ending to. Not nice. Actually, I wouldn't say nice either. It's a complete story that you will be able to kind of walk away from again 7 very strong teams that we're excited to share out. Um, yeah, I think that's pretty much it for me with systemic. So I mean, did I miss any points, Ben?
I think you covered them all well. I would add one of the things that most delighted me as the stories for this book came in was not all of the stories have a nice ending. It is true. Some of them end
Mm,
on a dark note. But even the stories that end darkly, these are not depressing stories.
Mm-hmm.
These are not stories that you're going to read and come away from it thinking, man, everything is terrible.
Mm-hmm.
You're going
yeah.
to come away from it thinking, things could be bad. Like, there
Mm,
is definitely a path that leads to a world that is dark, but there is a
yeah.
path that leads to a different world.
Mm-hmm.
And this was not this was not something that we imposed on our teams. We didn't say that these need to be stories of hope,
Mm,
and yet they are. Even the
Mm-hmm.
ones that end in melancholy, there
mm,
is a hope that suffuses them,
yeah.
that this melancholy doesn't have to be, and that by reading these stories, by experiencing this darkness now, maybe
Mm.
we can find a way to avoid it in the real future that we are all moving towards.
Very true. Very true.
That's a fantastic thought. And on that fantastic thought, we end this podcast. Thank you for coming on the show, Ben and Arthur. Really appreciate your time today, and we hope you kick some of the stretch goals. Those goals look bigger. The goals and the raised amount look bigger in Australian dollars. Uh, but, but I hope you do that in US dollars as well. So, yeah.
Thank you so
um,
much for having us on. This was a really lovely conversation. We appreciate so much being given the chance to share this book with people.
Yeah, and thank you
thank
again for taking the time to hear us out and having such good conversation about this topic.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And until next time, stay gold, everyone.